What is up, and welcome to the second edition of the Bruin Bible. This is Will Decker for the LA Football Network. I am so lucky to have the beat reporter for the UCLA Bruins from 24/7 Sports, the Bruin Report, Mike Regalado. Mike, what is going on, my man?
How you doing? Other than sweating like crazy, just waiting for football. Less than 2 weeks to Pac-12 Media Day. Then football season is going to be here before we all know it.
It's going to be an awesome year, man, and an anticipated one in Westwood. We're going to be talking about the breakout players on offense and defense for UCLA Bruins. We're going to do some prop bets, some over-under kind of odds on some individual players within the roster. Over-under on Pac-12 South win totals. We're just going to probably do the competitive teams from that, your USCs, your Utahs, your Arizona States, and talking about the recruiting class and who can make an impact. But before we start, Mike, you host a ska radio hour. I got to hear more about this as a ska.
I do. I work. I have two shows actually at a radio station in East LA. It's a low power FM station. But yeah, actually tonight after this, I got to get ready because I got to head over for the show tonight. Yeah, it's primarily ska. A lot of I add in reggae and rocksteady, some punk. Occasionally, I'll do some soul and funk, but it's ska centric. Yes, so. And then my Sunday show called The Conversation, I basically have guests come in and we just rap about music, their favorite album, artist, whatever it is. So, yeah, I don't like being bored. So,
Mike, we share the common love of music. So I got to ask you, as you just pretty much labeled me right into a question. Who you go into a party? It's a ska-centric party with a lot of fans of the genre. What is the album you're going to be playing for all these fans? You get one album to play.
Oh, might just go with the old reliable, the Specials. Their first album. I mean, just that just has all the bangers on it. So, if I have, that is a tough one. Or Operation Ivy. Got to go a little ska punk, a little East Bay.
Okay. And clarify this for me. Is Sublime, can you count them as ska?
I do, yeah, definitely. Come from that OC ska punk bubble, that family, if you will. Like with No Doubt. A lot of people are like, oh, is No Doubt ska? Yeah. Some of it, they did a lot of different genres, but for the most part, they started out in the scene.
Absolutely. I'm a big Pepper and slightly stupid guy myself. We're going to have to hit it off a little bit when it comes to music. But that will segue us into who's going to be the breakout offensive player of the year for the Bruins. A lot of great candidates, Mike. If you are making the call on who may have the biggest impact on offense this year, kind of breaking out, maybe not have been a star in past years, who do you have for UCLA on offense?
I mean, it seems like maybe the obvious choice, but Dorian Thompson-Robinson, just what he's done, how he has progressed. I'm kind of the stat nerd at Bruin Report Online, and just looking at his numbers, you can't, deny what he's done. Just increased his rushing yards per attempt, his passing yards per attempt. And there was a small sample size last year, but for the most part, you just saw a more confident, more just more. I don't want to say stable. That sounds bad, as if he was unstable before. But he's just a guy who is developing into the role that Chip Kelly has set for him. So, and then seeing him in spring, he just looks a little bit more focused. His checkdowns, he's going through the motions a lot more, it seems, trying to make smarter decisions, quicker decisions. So he seems like the obvious choice. But man, Zach Charbonnet, the transfer from Michigan, my God, that kid was just, he was either running over guys, running through guys, or hitting the gaps untouched. And saw a couple Wildcats in there. I don't know how much they're going to keep that in, but he's going to be someone to watch. But also, the unsung heroes. I got to throw in the tackles, Alec Anderson and Sean Ryan. Those guys upperclassmen now. This has been a young team for the first 3 years of Chip Kelly's tenure, but it's year 4. The majority of this team is not young anymore, and you got an experienced line. Everyone on the line has come back. They're pretty much out close to 3 deep. I don't think we're going to see a lot of the third team offensive line, maybe due to injuries or whatnot. But those are 4 guys that I think are going to really make an impact this season.
Mike, you nailed it. Dorian Thompson-Robinson, I think we could see a massive jump from him this year. He was always the athlete, playing quarterback, it felt like, for the first couple of years. And we always thought, boy, if he reaches his ceiling, watch out for the rest of the Pac-12 because this guy has it. Last year, granted, it was a smaller sample size given, COVID schedule, but it was the first time in his career where he completed over 60% of his passes. Still had, some of the turnover issues, little dumb throws here and there, but you could see the growth. Mike, I don't know if you ever played NCAA football, but that is like the stereotypical guy you would create as a player, the dual threat action QB that can run and pass. And boy, I mean, he had that long 60-yard touchdown run against Colorado. He's making plays with his legs. I mean, hitting Dulcich in stride against SC. And
forgot Dulcich. Dulcich is another one. Sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt you, but wow, he looked good in spring.
Oh my God, yeah, averaging 20 yards a catch was Dulcich last year. And this kid was a walk-on. Pretty much anyone could have had him if they offered him. It makes no sense. I was seeing Ryan, the LA Football Network owner and founder. He reminds me a lot of another 85. He reminds me of George Kittle for the 49ers.
Ooh.
The way he blocks, the way he gets downfield, he uses his speed, not afraid of contact, great hands. I mean, this guy, to me, he looks like the best returning Pac-12 tight end. And this is in a long line of, Pac-12 tight ends. Spoiler, we're going to have a prop bet on Dulcich and his numbers in just a little bit. But call me crazy. I think this guy could be in the Mackey Award conversation when all is said and done in 2021.
Definitely. I mean, I like to tell this tidbit during spring when we were because where the media is on the northeast corner. We have our little corner, but when they're on the south field, where they did a lot of their live sets, 11 on 11s. As practice was ending, the last play, Dulcich caught a pass, just eked it in, right into the end zone, and just this beautiful diving pass, and I just kind of shouted out, not shouted out, it was like a little under my breath. I was like, God, that was a crazy catch by Dulcich. And the student information director that was walking me back, he turns back to me and he goes, "Oh, there's nothing crazy about what Dulcich does. That's what he does." I'm like, noted. So, but no, the fact he's just a big guy who's quick. That's the thing that is going to give UCLA a huge edge because, right now I think their tight end unit is slightly better than their receiver unit. And that's not a knock on the receivers, but Chip Kelly, he's going for the run. He's rushing yards increased last season, and that it just seems that is where he wants to go. We're not going to see super speed blur like we did at Oregon, but he's going to find ways to get yards. But also the receivers, I would think they were just above average, not great, but Coda had a decent year. Kyle Phillips, he was the best receiver, and I think he'll have a better year this year. And then you have Delon Hurt, who came on late in the season. So
Cam Brooks, the transfer from A&M coming in.
He looked good. Yeah, he looked really good. And then some of the young guys in spring, Logan Loya, I'm blanking on the other freshman right now, but there are some guys who stepped up a little bit, and that's something. Aside from the fact that on the first day of spring, we went in there and we looked around and was like, there are a lot of guys here. It was the deepest spring that we had seen in Chip Kelly's era. So there are a lot of guys. It's deep. A lot of guys are pushing each other. So it's just really good to see. But there were some really athletic plays that some of the especially the younger receivers did. But you got to keep an eye on that tight end unit. It's just, along with Dulcich, Mike Martinez, Michael Ezeki, those are guys who they're big, they're lean, and they can get into space. So for opposing coaches, that's what you got to do, not let those guys in space. But blocking has also been amazing. The fact that there is so much open space, like we saw last year, Chip Kelly just knows what to do. He wants all of his receivers and tight ends to learn how to block. Obviously, that's not going to be their primary directive, but if you don't block, you're not going to play. And a lot of these guys are really in sync, especially after 4 years in the system. Like I said, this isn't a young team anymore. So the guys that were young when they came in, they're now juniors and seniors. And then the transfer portal has just been it's treated UCLA very well. So it was really good to see that so many new guys coming in and contributing quickly. Like I said, Zach Charbonnet. You have guys like Alikeo.
Alabama transfer.
Mm-hmm. And the linebacker from Notre Dame, Jordan Heath Genmark Heath. So they're deep. That was the biggest problem. The first 2 years was the fact that they didn't have a lot of guys. A lot of people like to say Chip Kelly ran a lot of guys off. Well, there had to be a change in culture. There definitely needed to be a change in culture after Mora left. And that's what Chip Kelly did. Chip Kelly wants his guys. He wants heady guys. He wants focused guys. He wants athletes. And with recruiting picking up, finally, it seems to be coming together. And it better come together, because that could be, bad for Chip Kelly at the end of December. Mid-December, if things don't go as they should. So
no, I completely agree. I do think there will be an uptick in recruiting. I saw that all 4 of our losses last year were by 6 points or fewer.
Mm-hmm.
There clearly was a jump that was made with UCLA. Our defense has been the long story with Azanero, the defensive coordinator there. They're finally back in the top 100. I think they finished 73rd last year. So there is a little jump to be had there. But before I go to the defense, I do want to talk about 2 other position groups that you mentioned. Charbonnet. My grandpa went to the University of Michigan, so I followed them religiously for a long time. And Charbonnet, as you know, was a highly touted recruit from Oaks Christian High School down there.
Yeah.
This kid was a top 50 consensus player with 24/7 Sports, Rivals, Scout, you name it. Gets to Ann Arbor, has double-digit touchdowns his freshman year, as kind of the leader of the running back room at that time. Falls out of favor with Josh Gaddis, the OC for Michigan, who I believe is just a guy that likes speed and space. He came from Alabama. He was more about having more speed, where Charbonnet is kind of your power back. But, boy, what a get for UCLA to have that experience coming there to pair with Britton Brown. He was actually the first guy I thought of when I'm thinking of guys that are going to blow up next year. Like you mentioned, we have all top 7 returning offensive linemen from last year. Sean Ryan, to me, might be a high draft pick in the NFL if he continues to play at this pace. I think he should be like a top 3-round pick, I should say, if he keeps progressing. Alec Anderson, like you said, is a great right tackle in the Pac-12. Get Charbonnet in there. And if we can see any of the signs he had from Michigan as a freshman, that's a hell of a get for the Bruins and Westwood. And then just some other guys I want to bring up. I think Kyle Phillips has almost become underrated. This guy has led UCLA in catches over the past 2 seasons. He's your typical slot guy. Unfortunately, the outside receiver room, like we were talking about early, not as solidified as kind of some of the other guys. So Kyle Phillips, I'm expecting big things this year. This is going to be his final year as a Bruin. He recorded 60 catches, in 2019, led us again with 38 last year. Who's to say he can't get 65, 70 grabs and, really kind of take off a little bit this year in his final season? Do you think that's crazy to say for a guy like Kyle Phillips?
No, because he's also going to be a pretty sly punt returner. He can just find the hole, turn on a dime, and just put on the afterburners and take it to the house. So I think, and especially with, I think he did slightly underperform, even though he was, the top receiver last year, has been, the top receiver the last few years. I think he still has something to prove. He's just because he's up there, there's still room to improve. And I think that, just seeing what kind of guy he is, how he talks, how he handles himself, it seems like he's not satisfied with that, and he's going to do what he can to stand out this season.
Totally agree. Let's move to the defensive side of the ball. Mike, you've obviously been going to spring practices, spring game, you name it. Give me a player on the defensive side of the ball, which did make a jump last year. They led the Pac-12 in sacks, which I found shocking looking back on it. Give me a guy that you think is going to gain attention within the Pac-12 for being a problem for opposing offenses.
This is crazy because, you bring up the sacks, and they were also, I think they were 8th in the nation in sacks per game. And I think they were 30th in tackles for a loss per game. That's unheard of, with me and my podcast partners. Like my buddy Jake, he's the football guy on the podcast, and my other co-host Bill, we're the basketball guys, and we just since Mora we've been saying blitz them all, just send everybody. There hasn't been blitzes here, and last year we were satisfied. If the blitzes, sacks, and tackles for a loss was a Thanksgiving dinner, we stuffed ourselves. We were so full after that season to see not only UCLA, send guys in more and more, but and that's the thing. There wasn't just one guy. It was collective. You had Quantrez Knight at the striker position, the kind of nickelback position. Caleb Johnson, linebacker. There were times where he would just zip through the line and hit someone in the backfield. Carl Jones is another guy who he's shifty. He is quick and he's shifty, and he can get around bigger tight ends and tackles. It's just crazy what the defense was able to do, especially after bringing in Brian Norwood. They brought him in from Navy, kind of installed that, depending on who you talk to, whether it's the 4-2-5 or the 3-3-5 defense. Either way, they are. It seems like there's it's more 3 defensive linemen with 2 hybrids on the side. It depends on the formation, but still, the fact that they are using a lot more linebackers and ends and hybrid positions to disguise their looks, and it's able to help them get in the backfield is something we just haven't seen in a while, and it has also helped out their rush defense for the most part. Defense was pretty bad in Mora's last season. I don't think it was last, but I know, was it rushing defense was last? Something like that.
I think it was.
Or one of the worst in the nation. Ever since Kelly took over, those numbers have been going down. Since Mora's last season, rush defense numbers have gone down significantly. That first year, I think they decreased defensive rushing yards per game by 85 yards, I think it was, something like that, 81 yards. And that's why I like looking at the stats, diving into it. It's like, what was that? It's like, did I see that right? And they keep doing it. Rush defense, not only having that those guys, attack the edges, creating sacks and tackles for losses, helping the rush defense, but just general attacking the gaps, holding up their blocks. It's just been quite impressive. The drawback is passing defense has kind of gone up, plateaued a little bit. It hasn't really gone down. Not horrible, but it can be better. And I think that this year, especially with guys like Quentin Lake and Stephen Blaylock at the safety positions, Jay Shaw, I think they're going to be able to bring down those numbers, but that's still a waiting game. But at the same time, another guy, Quentin Lake, keep an eye on him in the secondary. But going back to the, is there one guy that stands out? I would say Quantrez Knight, simply because he's a vocal leader. He might not have the best stats, but he's going to try. He's going to push other guys. He's going to bark at guys. He's going to congratulate guys. He's basically like the
general,
the dad on the team. Yeah, I mean, he is a grad transfer. So he's the guy that brings the energy, and energy too. I know this isn't stuff that's going to show up in the stat sheet, but the energy that the defense brought in spring, it's just. It was good to see guys hooting and hollering, big hits. They don't care who tackled, first team, third team. You get a big hit, that sideline was going crazy. So I just think that there's going to be, I think they also have a chip on the shoulder, especially considering the fact that the defense did give, I don't want to put it all on the defense, but the comeback wins against or comeback losses to USC and Stanford at the end of the season. That was a defensive thing.
Hate to say it, but true.
But at the same time, and that's the thing, like you said, they decreased their the scoring margin even in losses. What is that stat? They were 15 points away from being a 500 team. They were 15 points away from being an undefeated team, not just at 500, but going undefeated. That's crazy. That's not a stat you can say about year 1 or 2 in the Chip Kelly era. So even though the defensive stats are somewhere in the middle in the country, you got to look at the progress. A lot of people are like, the defense is not that great, or how good can it be? You got to look at the progress from year to year, who they have, who they're returning, and just what they're able to do. So that's I can't really put one name, but if I was to keep an eye on some guy, it'd be Q Knight.
Quantrez Knight. I mean, this is a guy who's a journeyman, has played for Maryland. That's where he started his college football career. Then went to Kent State, led that team in tackles for a loss, was the MVP defensively of their bowl game win in 2019, then transfers to UCLA, gets an extra year of eligibility, which I know Bruin fans love. This guy can make plays all over the open field. He's kind of your stereotypical safety that kind of comes into the box and blitzes a little bit extra and brings a little extra pressure on either the run game or the quarterback in that situation, which always helps. The guys that I'm looking at, there's 2 guys that really stand out. The guy I really liked last year, and I mean, Caleb Johnson, he's not one of the 2 guys I'm mentioning, but he needs to be discussed more. When you have 5.5 stats in 7 games, you're an absolute problem. And he did a hell of a job with that. But his running mate that I'm actually really excited about is Jonathan Agude. 2.5 sacks, 8.5 tackles for a loss. When you have more tackles for a loss than games played, you're doing something right, in my opinion. Right. And not to mention, this was his first year of Division I football. He was a JUCO transfer from I think in Palmdale area in Los Angeles, Riverside, maybe one of those 2 areas. But Jonathan Agude really jumped out to me on the tape, and to have him and Johnson kind of coming back blitzing will be awesome. The other guy I have for you, Mike, Quentin Lake. I mean, this guy, when he's healthy, he has been the leader of the secondary. He was 3rd on the team in tackles in 2018. But the problem is he's only played over 5 games once in his career. That was 2018. There's plays that jump out to you where you go, this guy's a pro. His dad, Carnell, famous Bruin, made the pro himself. I was watching the USC tape, for instance, last week, and Slovis is trying to get the ball to Amon-Ra St. Brown. It's the first turnover of the game. I know
exactly what you're talking about.
And the anticipation he has on a guy like Amon-Ra St. Brown, future NFL player, the ability to turn around midair, high point the football, bring it in. I'm like, that's an NFL play. I mean, that guy, if he can figure it out, there is a lane for him, whether it's a late round draft pick, maybe he raises his stock to a mid round draft pick, where this guy could make the NFL. I think it's not crazy to say that this guy can be a second or third team all Pac-12 performer. What do you think about that, Mike?
No, definitely. With him, like that play especially, he was running on the sideline, and I think he turned around, and like you said, he just like kind of timed it and ball hawked it out of the air. Yeah, it was like, nah, this is mine. And it's just that energy too that helped UCLA smack USC around, at least early. Unfortunately, we know how it all ended, but it's just plays like that. Guys just getting out there, being more confident, trusting, their coaches and their teammates. There was just a little bit more cohesion, it seemed, last year. And if they can, just bring things together defensively, I think the offense has been pretty good since the second year. There were flashes in the first year. Second year, I thought they did a lot better. Last year, I was just like, they can score on anybody. This is crazy.
Yeah.
What was that one? There was this one stat that really impressed me. I think they were in the top 15 of I'll try to find that stat right now, but just what the offense can do, I trust them fully. If the defense can bring up the slack, which it looks like they were doing in spring, this could be a very dangerous team. And it's weird looking at a lot of the critics and pundits and the rankings and all this across the nation. A lot of people have UCLA at 4th, and I think that that seems to me that they're maybe not looking as closely as they should, because there was so much progress, last season. To just put UCLA, in 4th place, I think not a lot of people are paying as much attention as they should be, because I think this team is going to surprise a lot of people this year.
I think you're dead right, Mike. I think when we talked about earlier, their 4 losses were for a combined like less than 6 points. Like you said, if they scored 15 more points, they go undefeated, I think was the statement you made.
Yeah, 50% undefeated.
Yeah, it wasn't that they were getting killed or blown out. They were in every one of those football games. If it wasn't for a late lapse like SC or Stanford, like you were saying, they win those games.
Yeah.
And, I really think the country is sleeping on them. 19 of 22 starters returning. Familiarity is the big thing with Chip Kelly, because I know he runs such a complex system there. But now you have all these guys that are going to be, upperclassmen, senior leaders there. Dorian Thompson-Robinson is a veteran quarterback at this point. I think it's going to be great things. And, Mike, I am really excited to go on to this next topic. We're going to just start doing the prop bets. The first one, we're going to start with the star of the show, DTR. And these numbers, there is more of a meaning to them than you think. And I'll let you figure that out after you answer the prop bet.
Okay.
So give me over-under. 3,800 yards passing and 30 touchdowns for Dorian Thompson-Robinson. What's your gut telling you, man?
I'd say over.
I love it.
With the asterisk, stay healthy.
Of course, yeah. No one's going to do without help, but I like our odds with that, man. We have, in my opinion, the best returning tight end. We have a hell of a slot receiver in Phillips. I think maybe this could be the year Coda kind of finally makes the jump. This guy was an Army All-American at one point. Yeah. But the reason I chose that passing number was he reminds me of a former Bruin that was in the past decade, and that was Brett Hundley, his 2012 year. His best season as a passer was, ironically, his freshman year. He passed for 3,700 yards and 29 touchdowns. So if he can eclipse those numbers through the air, I think we're in for a good time in Westwood this fall with DTR doing it. And the next one I got for you, it's a fun other prop bet. It's kind of the tandem backs, Mike. We got Britton Brown and Charbonnet, who I believe to be the 2 lead backs. I know Charbonnet is going through his first spring there, but everything you told me pretty much confirms that from what you saw at the practices. Here's a combined total. Are they going to rush over 1,900 yards, and are they going to get 22 touchdowns between the both of them?
Yes. I'm not even thinking about that. Yes.
Given our offensive line returning, I do believe our run game will be top 10 within the entire nation next year. Given the line return play, given the running backs, given DTR. I mean, who could say DTR doesn't run for 700-800 yards as well on the ground to kind of complement those guys. So I'd have to agree with you on that take. I think Charbonnet was, misvalued in Michigan, and their loss is our game for the Bruins.
Yeah.
I think he's going to be a phenomenal player. Britton Brown, according to Ryan Dyrud, who I was talking to last week, he believes he would have been drafted last year if he wanted to go into the draft. He averaged 6.7 yards a carry last year. Just think about how crazy that is. I mean, every time he touches the ball, on average, you're getting damn near a first down. Call me crazy. That's a guy I want on my team. You know what I mean?
Yeah, exactly.
You got Britton Brown and Charbonnet. I'm going with the over as well. They're going to rush a combined over 1,900 yards and 22 total touchdowns. Let's go to the receiving room. This will be a fun one. Kyle Phillips, Chase Cota, kind of the two receivers that we feel most confident about. We're not including Dulcich because he's a tight end. We're going to get to him next.
Mm-hmm.
But Phillips and Mr. Cota, we're going for 1,800 yards and 15 touchdowns between the two of them combined. Where do you see that?
I could say that's an over. Actually, when you brought up the DTR thing, I thought right at the end, right before we went into running backs, I was like, wait a minute. What if Chip Kelly just really runs the hell out of the ball this year? But if it's a little bit more balanced, I mean, if DTR is getting that many numbers, I think that Cota and Phillips can combine for that too. Yeah,
I agree, man. I think Cota's only had one 100-yard receiving game since coming to Westwood, and this is going to be his last year there. I think we need to see that jump given what he was recruited as. This guy was a high 4-star recruit.
Yeah,
played in the All-American game. Phillips, I'm not really concerned with. I actually think Phillips is going to get 900 to 1,000 yards receiving this year. I think he's really going to kind of blow it open in his final year in Westwood.
Mm-hmm.
I'm taking the over as well.
Nice.
Greg Dulcich, following a long line of talented UCLA tight ends. We're talking Devin Asiasi. We're talking Caleb Wilson, Joe Foria, Mercedes Lewis, and that's just in the past 20 years.
Yeah.
50 catches, 1,000 yards, and 10 touchdowns for Dulcich, for a guy that averaged 20 yards a catch last year and had 5 touchdowns.
How many yards did you say?
1,000. He's just going to eclipse.
Oh, yeah. Yeah. Over.
I love it. I think Dulcich is so instrumental to the Bruins moving forward. And, he's just one of those guys that you watch, and it's a term that I think Chris Berman used to use. That guy's a dude out there, or, John Gruden used to use. That guy's a dude out there.
Yeah.
And I always get that when I watch Dulcich and throw on the tape, because that guy's blocking. He's making pancakes. He's going out there running routes, beating defenders. I mean, the 59-yard touchdown catch he had against SC. Wow. I mean, that was a play where you're just watching the game and, had UCLA's defense not blown it late. But that was the moment where I actually thought the Bruins were finally going to take down SC. That would have been a huge, huge victory for them. But, I think this year, that the odds are in our favor. So I'm really excited to watch it this year. So Dulcich, you're going over as well. I love that.
Yes.
We're going to move to the defense. Caleb Johnson had 5.5 sacks last year.
Mm-hmm.
Over under, he gets, let's go 8.
Oh, yeah, over.
Over on the 8. I love that. Let's go.
Yeah, I mean, like you said, 5.5 sacks last year in 7 games. That's crazy. It's like, especially for UCLA's defense, which hasn't really done that in the seasons prior. So, yeah, I'll give him that.
I love that. Yeah, I'm taking the over as well. We have not gone an under yet for those keeping score. We are very optimistic about our Bruins next year. Here's kind of an interesting one. It took me all the way back to, I believe, 2014 since the last time we had a player get over 4 interceptions in a season. Like you said, Quentin Lake returning, Stephen Blaylock, Quantrez Knight. Granted, he's more of a guy who goes against the rush, but he's coming back. That's another experienced veteran in the secondary, Jay Shaw. Do you think one of those guys can get 4 or more interceptions in a season for 2021?
I'm going to go with the over on that, yeah. Because, I mean, you have 2 guys that had 2 interceptions last year, and that was only in 7 games. And, like I said, I expect the secondary to be a lot better. So, which includes not just pressure on the edge, but guys actually, downfield making plays. So, yeah, I think one of them will get 4 or more interceptions.
I think I'm with you. It's very tough in college. By the way, I was looking at the UCLA history book. Raheem Moore had 10 in 2009. Do you know how hard that is in an 11, 12 game sample size?
Exactly.
That is insane. He's averaging almost an interception per game. So shout out to Raheem Moore. He was a fantastic Bruin back in the late 2000s. But yeah, I think I agree with you. Quentin Lake, I think if he's healthy, I mean, we marveled at the play together over what he did against Keaton Slovis and USC. You know, I could see him getting, 4 of those this next year if he's healthy and he's, clicking on all cylinders. Did he look healthy in spring ball? I should ask you that.
Yeah. I mean, there were some guys who were dinged up, but it's spring. If a guy's, on the sideline, don't take too much, put too much into that. Especially, Chip Kelly, we asked him about all the guys that were sidelined, and he goes, yeah, I mean, it's just, precautionary. If it was game day, 90% of the guys that were sidelined would be suited up and playing. So, yeah. I think he was out for a few practices. Like towards the end, there were a lot of guys that were out, not necessarily injured, but it's just just being precautionary. Still he looked good.
Sweet, I love to hear that. We're gonna get some Quinn Lake. Hopefully, got our fingers crossed. We can get him for a 12-game slate this next year.
Yeah.
That's all I got for the individual statistic prop bets. We're going over on all of them. We're very confident in our Bruins this year. I love it, Mike. Let's move to the Pac-12 South. I'm going to talk about the top 3 contenders kind of against us. That would be Arizona State, Jaden Daniels, Herm Edwards doing big things up there. Utah, Kyle Whittingham always puts together a competitive squad. And the crosstown rivals, the USC Trojans, Slovis and Drake London coming back. So those are going to be fun. Let's talk about Arizona State. I think their over-under has them at 9, it's a little dicey for a lot of people. Where do you see ASU going next year, and do you think they can get 9 or more wins?
I think they're good. I just don't think they're as good as people think, and especially if there's fallout for, with what happened, a few weeks ago with the recruiting violations.
Yeah.
That I think is going to affect them. So I just can't see 9 wins for ASU. But either way, you name those 4 teams, UCLA, USC, Utah, and Arizona State. I think they're just going to beat up in each other. So I think for any team, it's going to be hard to get 9 wins.
Yeah, I think it's really going to remind us of, some of those Big 12 years where the offenses are just, it's like 50 to like 45 games. You know what I mean? It feels like no defense is being played. I feel like that's how it's going to be because, 3 of these quarterbacks, if they play their cards right, whether it's Daniels, whether it's Slovis, whether it's DTR for that matter, if they all have big years, we could see these guys all playing on Sundays. Like that is I think a very feasible option. And the offenses are going to be very high powered for all of these teams. So I think it's going to be like you were saying, they're going to be beating up on one another coming this year. Let's move to Utah. Whittingham always overproduces. I think they were listed at 8 wins flat out in Salt Lake City. Do you think they overachieve or do you think they go slightly under?
I think they overachieve. You see, that one's tough because of the quarterback situation. Is
going up?
Yeah. Are they? Are they going to have a set quarterback, and is that quarterback going to be able to run the offense from game number 1? That's the one thing that's holding me back from saying that they're going to be flat out the winners of the South Division. I think that they will be the South Division winners, but I got to see how that quarterback situation is. But at the same time, I mean, everywhere else they're pretty much stacked. They also have Theo Howard, former Oklahoma Sooner and UCLA Bruin, on their side now. So they have a weapon at receiver. So, but yeah, Whittingham always has his teams prepared. So it's good. It's hard to say that they will get 9 wins. Like I said, I think everyone's going to beat them up, but I think they're going to be the closest to achieve that.
Yeah, I don't disagree. Theo Howard's kind of their version of Quantrez Knight at this point on his third team, making an impact. We'll root for Theo from afar, but not against our Bruins come this year.
Do some stuff against USC and Arizona State.
Yeah, take it to SC, man. We would love that. We would love that all day. Help us out with ASU too. Theo, that would be awesome. Let's get to SC, crosstown rivals. I think they're listed at 9 wins as well. Slovis, probably the odds-on favorite if you were gambling for the Pac-12, offensive player of the year. Drake London looked sensational at times. I think they've got Elijah Griffin coming back in the secondary. Highly touted safety they have there. Kind of give me your thoughts on the Trojans, and do you think they can get more than 9 wins?
I don't, and that is because of one Mr. Helton. Helton just he's not a horrible coach, but he's not a great coach. And for I might be speaking blasphemy here, but in order for USC to be the USC that everybody hopes they will be, Helton has to up his stock, or they need to get a coach that is going to take them to the promised land again. And everyone thought they were going to get. I'm blanking on the coach. He's now Jacksonville's coach, former Ohio State. Urban Meyer. Thank you. That was the whole talk, and Bruin fans were just like, "Oh, great! If they get Urban Meyer, it doesn't matter if Chip Kelly improves. We're screwed." But then UCLA's savior, now I'm blanking on the athletic director, USC, decides to keep Helton, and it's like, cool. USC fans were like, UCLA fans were like, we agree with that. Yes, good, thank you. That says something when your rivals are cheering, retaining a coach that their fan base doesn't want. It says quite a bit. But USC did pull out what I think was it the first 2-3 games they were losing within the last minute and found ways to win. And whether that is having coaching, elite players, or a combination of both, they got the job done. Now they didn't get the job done in the Pac-12 championship game. But yeah, there just seems to be like hiccups that Helton just can't get past. And with this Royal Rumble in the South Division, I don't think he's going to get to 9 wins. That's just me.
I agree. I think it's going to be harder for Slovis. I doubt he puts up the numbers people are thinking because his offensive line is just ravaged. They lost 3 or 4 starters, if I'm correct, from last year, including some high-profile players going in the NFL draft. So I agree with you. I think they're going to be an 8-4 team. They're going to be the classic. Remember Matt Barkley's senior year there? Everyone thought they were going to be awesome. They went like 8-4. I think that's kind of what I'm going to see a repeat of with Slovis this year. I think that's very feasible for those teams. Mm-hmm. Mike, I know you're a busy man. I really appreciate you having you on. Before I get you to go, give me one impact true freshman for the Bruins next year.
Devin Kirkwood. Secondary, he just exploded on different plays. He's just quick, confident. He was hitting guys, and just because, like I said, there weren't really guys injured, just sidelined towards the end. Because of that, he popped into the played with the first team a few practices, and some people could say like, oh, that's just because they're down to that whatever. But no, this kid can ball out. So yeah, he's one that I have my eye on.
Yeah, Kirkwood, 6'4", I think, secondary corner. I mean, you can't make that stuff up. Yeah. He'll be able to guard any receiver out there on the slot and on the outside. Mike, thanks again so much for coming on. I'm going to be heading down to hopefully a couple Bruins games this year. I'd love to get a beer with you in person, maybe talk about our Bruins. And, I hope you have an awesome rest of your night, man, and look forward to speaking with you soon.
Yeah, let's do it. Same. Thank you very much.